I always like to. You probably know if you know me. I just like to have fun and just have fun with it and don't take anything so seriously. And Martin was always very good, and he would play along apart from the holiday question. Harry was great. I remember doing an evening with Harry Redknapp once. And we did a Q&A session, and I remember a few questions from the floor, and I still remember this one. Someone said to him, this is when Gareth Bale was... what was the run, Daniel? How many games was it Gareth played and didn't win in?
25. It was 25 league games, but because he was injured, it went on for a while. And I think he brought him on again. Was it Hull or someone? We were like 5-0 up, but last 10, right, just get the monkey off your back, just go. Yeah. What
are you talking about, Gareth? There? What are you talking about? So anyway, someone asked Harry, this was in the middle of this, and said, what do you think about Gareth? What's going on about Gareth Bale? And he said, I'll be honest with you, I don't know whether the kid's going to make it. And I still remember that today. And he was, then again, he said he wasn't sure, and it did work out. And he was great. And you know what? And I love Maurizio. Loveliest man. He's just the loveliest guy. I've done a few things with him. You can just tell, when someone looks you in the eye when you're chatting to them. Just very genuine, very much loves his football. I know he gets in at the crack of dawn, he's there all day, and he just loves it, he lives it, he breathes it. And for me, I think he's terrific. And I think it's showing that it really is, and I think it's just going to get better and better.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Terrific. No, it's interesting about Maurizio, right? Because we're somewhat limited, right, in terms of our exposure to him. We only really see him in press conferences, and he doesn't really say a lot, right? I mean, if my memory serves me correctly, he actually could speak English when he took the job, or when he was at Southampton, but he always used an interpreter. He was very, very careful about how his words could be misconstrued, and then, but he's never done that here, has he? So he's always spoken in English, but even still, it's always limited and guarded. So it's great to hear that there is, a great personality, a genuine guy.
There absolutely is. There's a great sense of humour. I remember I was asked to do a thing at the training ground. David Pleat, it was his 70th birthday, and Daniel Levy asked me to come along and we did like a This Is Your Life thing. I mean, David Pleat was in the office. And he was doing a scouting chat, and then they're all waiting outside, and they said, look, Paul, can you just go in, knock on the door, and don't forget, I'm a Spurs fan, even in front of David Pleat. I'm like, I can't do this. So you just got to do it. So I banged on the door and said, listen, David Pleat, you thought you were here to talk about scouting, but no, this is your Tottenham life, and we had to go through the whole thing. There was Maurizio there. They were talking about scary audience. Daniel Levy was there, and it was only about 10 or 11 people, so we went through this thing, and there were a few jokes talking about David Pleat and how well he'd done back in '87, and sort of aimed at Maurizio, saying, yeah, no pressure, this is what you've got to live up to. But he was great, and he just plays along, and just got a great sense of humour. And he's great, really.
Oh, that's terrific.
David Pleat helped me out a lot once, actually. Back in the day, about 2 o'clock, I used to interview him on the big screen when he was caretaker manager for the 8 months or whatever it was after Glenn Hoddle left. And we interviewed him about team selection and stuff. So I got to know him fairly well, and he's obviously on the gantry a lot. He did a lot of co-commentary, and we always stop and chat. He knows me, and brilliant. The night that Fabrice Mwanda collapsed, he was upstairs on the gantry next to me for 5 Live. He was for a radio station here in the UK. He was summarising. I had John Champion on the other side, working as a commentator for another TV channel, who was going on chapter and verse about Mark Vivian Foe, how he died on the pitch, and I thought, I'm not going with that. Got a lot of time with John Champion. He's one of the best out there, but I wasn't going to go with that angle. And David Pleat, calmly, astutely, was talking about what the referee should do, how he would take the players away, and literally, to the letter of everything he said, was exactly how it panned out. And I've got a lot of time for David. I could say to him, who's the third choice left back for the under-18s at Rochdale, right? And he would know like that. He's unbelievable. His knowledge of players is second to none.
That night, the Mwamba night that was a tough call, wasn't it? Especially for you to do that. Of course, and what we were doing, I was down with Pat Jennings. We were about to go on at half-time, and we saw him come through. And the feeling was unbelievable. But when he came back, when we talk about great moments and great memories that I have, was when they said a couple of days before, he's coming back to White Hart Lane for the first time. Can you interview him on the pitch? And it was like, okay. So I met him, and he was a lovely guy, and said, I want to walk over to where it happened. And when you think, you know what? I don't know. That's really almost, it's very eerie thing to do. And he did. He went out there. And he went over to the place, and all the supporters going, no, to the, it was, this is right. To the right, no, just there, there. Stood there, came back, and then he walked back to me, and of course I've got, understandably, a man that would have died, and did for a while, came up and looked at me, and he was crying his eyes out. Yeah. People are looking at me and think, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to ask? How are you going to do this? And I just left it until he was ready, and then, you got to, what are you thinking right now? Yeah. What do you feel? How do you... Because everybody was feeling this. It was amazing. Yeah. Then we tried to change tack a little bit, but that was a very, very emotional moment, and it was amazing. And it's amazing to be able to do these different things, to do stuff like that. And then we've got, the flags at 125, the joy of that. Another one was where the 1961 team came back, and this is... I cried as I was announcing it, because... They often come to me and say, look, how do you think we should stage it? So when we had, it was the 50th anniversary of the double side, those that obviously were still alive, that were with us, were there, apart from the great Bobby Smith, who was in hospital, and at the time, we had no idea how ill he was, and he later passed away. So we expected that he would be back, and then we had... Bill Nicholson's daughter, and we built up and relations of Danny Blanchflower, and that was a very emotional one to do as well. And that was when tears started coming. But God, it's great being a Spurs fan, though, isn't it? It really is. You don't get this anywhere else.
Absolutely. You talk about surreal moments, but just going back to the Mwamba thing, the doctor that came on, Andrew Dina, who was watching from the stands, he's a family friend, right? And I saw him come on, and I thought, that's Andrew Dina. What's he doing there? And that was just quite bizarre. And then he was there for the rearranged game when they replayed it, and he was shown on the big screen. Obviously by then he was a big deal and everyone knew about him. He's the most unsporting guy you could ever wish to meet, right?
Oh, is that true?
Yeah. He likes football, but you put a football at his feet, he just he'll sort of kick it backwards by accident type thing. He's not a sporting guy, right?
So why was he there? How come he was there?
He's a Spurs fan. But the point I'm going to make is he was there on the screen. And I mentioned him, and I said to him afterwards, I never in my wildest dreams thought I would ever mention you in commentary. and that year he was on the Sports Personality of the Year show. It was really funny. But he was there watching. I think he had his nephew's ticket, and he said the hardest thing he had to do was to persuade the steward, who he was, to allow him onto the field. When
of course.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that you both brought up this story. Our friend Vasconi had submitted a question asking about it. I remember it so vividly. My wife and I were watching that match Saturday, and I'll never forget it. I mean, we were bawling. It was, as a supporter seeing it, I mean, we didn't have the scope of view that the two of you had, but the angle of when it happened, you saw it, and you knew it. You knew it immediately. You knew something was terribly, terribly wrong.
Well, I mean, our floor manager, Paul referred to him a moment ago, getting directions. Paul was in the tunnel as well, but our floor manager, Sid, right, he was there when Mwamba was carried off, and he said to me, he's my link between what happens in the technical area when players go off. He said to me, he's dead. He's not breathing. The guy's dead.
Yeah. So what was it like? I mean, it seemed like, watching the telly, you could hear a pin drop in there. And then, was there this rising crescendo of, Fabrice Mwamba, and then...
There was applause from all over, and the director, obviously I'm going from the outside broadcast pictures, so I'm talking about the pictures that I'm seeing in front of me, not what's happening on the pitch, to my right. And they showed cutaways of supporters crying, and then the applause when you could see the doctor, the physio was pumping the chest. Yeah. People spontaneously were applauding. But my most vivid memory was coming down off the gantry, normally after the game, whether it's a defeat, it's fairly sombre, but people moaning, oh, this one mucked up, that one mucked up, or if we win, what a great goal it was, or how unlucky we were, if it was a draw, that type of thing. Nobody said a single solitary word that night. People were walking out of the grounds in absolute stone silence.
See, we didn't know. I was sitting with the ex-players, and we were watching the game, and obviously you could see more, you were hearing more from commentary, and also I missed it happen. And you looked at, hold on, what's he doing down there? At first you think, you don't give it a second thought. And then, that was when, I think it was the reaction of the other players that made you think, hang on, there's something serious here. Because normally, you know, I'd just get up and that was what I remember seeing. And because I was down with Pat, and then we sort of went up and they thought, oh, and what's going on? Does anybody know what's going on? And then it started to unfold as it went from there. But, you know, thank goodness everything was fine.
Benny and JD reacted really badly to begin with. They were the most visible ones, but and of course last season Gomez goes and claps. I thought, oh Christ, here we go again.
I thought the exact same.
Oh, I know.
I spotted that.
Exact same thing.
I spotted that at the time. I said, we've got a problem here. Gomez has gone down. Yeah. And I thought, oh no, not again.
Yeah, and I think my wife and I were watching that one as well, and I started yelling because I remember the cameras had panned to Gary Monk, and he seemed so matter of fact about it, and he was talking with Maurizio on the sidelines. And I was like, why is he so calm? Why is he so calm? He's collapsed. But it turns out it was just a feigning spell. But, you know, what a tidal wave that must have been. I mean, what a roller coaster. And the ultimate outcome, thank God, right? You know, he got through it. He managed through it. He survived. And we as a club, I mean, we really got a lot of accolades for how our emergency response folks, you know, how they handled the situation. And who was it? It was Owen Coyle that was manager of Bolton at the time. And I think he had a lot of really nice things to say about, you know, what the club did and how the club handled things.
And rightly so. And also, I think you have to give credit to Howard Webb, who, there was a really nice shot actually at Ledley's testimonial game. Howard Webb and Fabrice Mwamba, about an hour before kick-off, just sitting down around the side of the pitch, just talking. That was quite a nice moment.
Yeah.
Amazing.
There's some good times on the pitch as well. It's not all doom and gloom.
And to think that you went through that, and you went through that with Pleat sitting next to you.
Yeah, I mean, David Pleat was working for the radio. He wasn't working with me that day, but he was literally
unbelievable.
2 feet to my right. Yeah,
amazing.
So you know what you mentioned though was the Ledley King night. Now that was a special night because at the end, for the first time, it was a real damp squib of the end of the season, wasn't it? Do you remember?
Yeah.
And it was, and for the first time, it wasn't full, and it was like this is not right. And then the next night. We had the Ledley King testimonial, and that was just the most unbelievable night. That was great. That was really. I mean, we talk about the proper games and winning stuff, but that was a wonderful Spurs celebration. We do put on a good do. I tell you what.
Give us the A to Z of that day, from start to finish, both of you.
For me, again, it was. I was going to be doing a lot. Pre-match, we had a half-time penalty shootout with the 1984 boys against a load of members of Parliament, and then the interview with Ledley afterwards. For me, another one of the greatest moments for me at White Hart Lane was I was going to interview Glenn Hoddle, who was going to be there, but bless him, I think his mum passed away, so he couldn't be there.
That's right.
Then they said, look, we've got 10 minutes. Again, it's one of those 10 minutes to fill. How about you just walk out and just, with your microphone, and do you want to just wander around and interview some of the legends? So I'm like, okay. Anyway, I remember Simon Felstein as the press guy. I still remember him going, oh, yeah, go on, give it a go. Good luck. See how you get on. So out I went with my microphone there. I walked out with Ledley, and I said, look, Ledley, you know, you got your team here. Can I speak to anybody? He said, yeah, this is in front of everybody. So off I walk, and I walk over. There's Teddy Sheringham. Teddy, come over here. Teddy, how you doing? Great, Teddy. Right. Over here, let's go over there, and it was Timo Tanyo, and then David Ginola was there, and honestly, it was the kid in the candy store. I'm just walking amongst these, they're kicking the ball around, coming over. It was unbelievable, so exciting, and probably some of the worst interviews you've ever heard, but my God, I so enjoyed it, and it was. And there was Edgar Davids, and Edgar, who always scared me, because I remember before doing an interview with him once after a game, and I said, look, you know, we're just going to do this, the sponsors, and he's gone, you've got 5 minutes. And it was like, okay, it was actually going to be half an hour, and he just scared the life out of me. So I remember walking over to him and saying, Edgar, I've always been scared of you, but he was great, and it was a fantastic night, and we did the half-time stuff, and then Ledley at the end. Just the best.
Didn't one of the MPs say something he shouldn't have said at half-time? He used the Y word, didn't he? Do you remember?
Yes, he did. I do remember that. Yeah, he got away with that as well, didn't he?
He did.
I remember it pouring with rain, and my rayon suit, the water was just flying off it, and I was dry as soon as I walked indoors again. It was fantastic.
But didn't Teddy Sheringham take his goal well? It was a trademark arch of the back, and he placed it into the corner. The years just rolled back then. It was a brilliant moment.
Teddy and Darren Anderton just hadn't changed, had they? They could have just walked into the team. They just looked amazing.
Yeah, Darren Anderton, he was a guest recently at half-time, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Yes.
Wait, now, what's that?
What
was that about with Anderton?
Darren Darren's a great guy. I just want to say, Darren is fantastic, and we asked him to do. We had an NFL challenge just a couple of nights ago. What was the? I can't remember what the game was. What was it?
It
Daniel?
was